Hi, Alicia.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. Thanks for joining us today. I know that you just finished school recently, so you've had a lot on your plate. So really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And in preparation for our talk, you and I talked about kind of your goals around what you wanted to share about your experience and to help really educate others, including the younger generations who might have somebody in their classroom that's been diagnosed with a brain tumor, or maybe somebody in their school, or even if it's not the child, maybe it's a loved one, right? As there are many people who are affected by a brain tumor. So for those of you who don't know Alicia, this is Alicia Chenier, and she was diagnosed with a brain tumor at just 6 months old, now 21, and life with a brain tumor is all you've ever known, right? Pretty much.
Yep, pretty much.
And yet it has never stopped you from living your life to the fullest. So let's learn a little bit more about you, Alicia. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I'm Alicia. And so like you said, I was diagnosed when I was 6 months old, and have lived with a brain tumor my whole life. But a little bit more about me besides my diagnosis. I am the lover of anything Broadway and theater. I've a theater kid my whole life growing up, always doing community theater and, acting in school. I was a drama major throughout high school. And now, I'm a college student in ECE now, which is early childhood education, going into my 4th year next year and hoping to graduate hopefully next spring. And I'm also visually impaired, and I'm actually blind but like fully my left eye and mostly in my right eye. So, all of those things together is kind of who I am, but that doesn't stop me from, having a fun time.
Good. I'm glad it doesn't stop you. You're a very busy person, that's for sure. All right, here we go. So what about, why don't you tell us a little bit about your diagnosis? Of course, you were diagnosed as a baby. So I imagine over the years, your family and healthcare professionals kind of told you about the symptoms you maybe experienced back then, and how it was for you, at a young age. So I'll let you tell everybody about your diagnosis.
Yeah, so for me, my diagnosis and my story, like you said, I was only 6 months old. So a lot of this is kind of from my mom's perspective, and like kind of like what my mom, she had like written a diary of like just keeping track of everything. So, I was diagnosed at 6 months old with a childhood brain tumor called craniopharyngioma, which is typically a tumor that's in the pituitary area, and have lived with it for 21 years now. So for me, my symptoms, I guess my mom had basically mentioned I was very, very sick, kind of colicky, but it was worse than colicky. She had worked with children in the past, and she had never really experienced that kind of sickness in a baby. And I was just like, it was a hard, I guess I was a hard baby to take care of, always sick, always vomiting. And then I also had vision loss in my left eye. So my mom, actually, who has a background in PSW and DSW, noticed that I just wasn't responding in, like, I guess when she would go approach me on my left side, I just wasn't, noticing her. So she kind of went to the doctor that way and that was one of the symptoms. And then my head was also kind of weirdly shaped. It just, they thought after the birth, it was like one of those things that just happened, but no, turns out it was the tumor later on. And this is a photo that a lot of people have baby photos, and this is, reality with kind of, for me, this was one of my baby photos, and you can actually see I have a baby bottle in the photo kind of thing and in the machine. So,
wow. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And so let's talk about your first surgery, because you've had a few surgeries, right? So you can tell us a little bit about your first surgery to start off with. And what a cute photo of you.
Thanks. I like to say my first.
Oh, you cut out there, Alicia.
First baby selfie.
Sorry, can you repeat that? You cut out for a second.
Yeah. So I like to say this photo is my first baby selfie, because it's kind of
yeah.
So yeah, my first surgery was done when I was about 8 months old. Again, this is kind of going off of my mom, and like those times were just insane and crazy. So we have the kind of dates. So around 6 to 8 months old was my first surgery. The surgery involved me getting an Ommaya reservoir, which is a type of port that would allow them to give me chemo treatment, but instead of through a regular port, which is kind of normally connected, in the chest area and through a vein, this was connected right directly to my tumor. And you can actually see it in the photo. There's like a little bump right there. Yeah.
Right there. Yeah.
So that was my little bump, my lucky bump, as we used to call it. And then after surgery, the port was used to access and then drain the fluid in my tumor. And then to also put like whatever they would drain from the tumor, they would then put in chemo. And I was on a chemo called bleomycin. I'm pretty sure that's how you say that.
Yeah, that is the way you say it. And so that's first surgery. Let's talk about your second surgery. So you were 3 years old.
I was, so second surgery around 3 years old. I had the biggest surgery I had yet. So they had actually, went in. So they had cut my head open from like one ear all the way to the other.
Wow.
And to resect the tumor and take out the port and, see how much they could get out. So, the surgery left me scar ear to ear. And then after the surgery, I was tumor free for about a year. But then after an MRI, I had discovered it had started growing back, just in a different spot. But this surgery also removed my pituitary gland. So I don't actually have a pituitary gland because the tumor had basically taken over that. So, leaving me with lifelong medications.
Right. And so what are some other things that, some other challenges you've had because your pituitary gland was removed?
So I'm still learning this because, I'm still transitioning to adult care. But this has basically left me having some chronic illnesses. So I have, what's that called? Adrenal insufficiencies, and then also diabetes insipidus. So it's kind of like, monitoring my water intake, my sodium intake, and then also I don't have my body, I guess, doesn't produce adrenaline, so I'm on daily medications for that to keep everything in check, because if I get sick, my body doesn't have that fight or flight mode, I guess, and so it just kind of goes into shock. So I need all of those daily medications.
Yeah. It must be difficult having to take those medications daily.
Yeah, I'm lucky because I have blister packs, so it's all organized that way. But it lots of alarms.
Right. Yeah. A lot of reminders, right?
Yeah. And then flash forward 12 years, I was very lucky to not have needed surgery for that. Since I was around 3 to the age of 15, there was just regular checkups and MRIs every 3 months or so. Had no chemo needed after that, and life was really good and normal, I guess, for me. But at the age of 15 now, I was in high school. Tumor was very, very slow growing, which, very grateful for. And then MRIs every 3 months for those 12 years with many other hospital appointments, seeing all the other different specialists throughout Sick Kids. I went to Sick Kids, and I was probably on all the floors at one point or another, because there's just so many, I guess with the brain tumor, there's the brain tumor, but then there's also so many other little things that a lot of, people don't realize how much it, you have to go through, I guess.
It's not so straightforward, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It's really not so straightforward. I had specialists, and then those specialists would be like, oh, go see this other specialist. So it was fun time. And then living with a brain tumor had just kind of become my normal and my regular thing. I was high school student, just living my daily life, and then when I was 15, though, I started having, I've always had the migraines, but the migraines just got to a point where they were just really, really bad, and medication would not at that point help. Nothing seemed to help. And then the doctors decided that was when something had to be done. And then that after this one surgery, I had that life-shocking moment that, ooh, I need to really start, paying attention more to my health and realizing that what I have isn't normal, I guess. Yeah, and that photo is, I think that was before the surgery.
Okay.
At Sick Kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, like this has always been your normal. Like we often ask people, so what's your new normal, right? After being diagnosed with a brain tumor, but for children, pediatric brain tumor survivors, right? It's all that you've ever known. And, and I just want to remind everybody as well that the type of tumor that Alicia was diagnosed with, a craniopharyngioma, is considered a non-malignant tumor. And we often use the term non-malignant as opposed to the term benign, because we're really trying to encourage the healthcare community to try to stop using the word benign, because we don't think that there's anything benign about having a mass in your control center, regardless if it's cancerous or not, right?
Yeah, and mine was a little bit different because like mine was kind of like at a point, like sometimes it was kind of malignant, but also non-malignant. It's a mix, right?
Sure.
But it really put me in into perspective of, I really have to start, health has to come first, because I'm one that likes to put school before anything, kind of. But yeah. And then
so third time's a charm. Then you had a third surgery back in 2015.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So this was my third surgery. March 20th, 2015 was the third surgery. The doctors had decided to put another Ommaya reservoir in and plan to start chemo after. I still have this port, haven't needed to use it. So now growing up being a fighter, I had plans on, I didn't let this stop me. I thought, I had basically went to Sick Kids a few weeks before the March break and told them, can you do the surgery on the March break? Because I don't want to miss anything. I have theater shows coming up and I have a literacy test I got to write. Like I got a deadline.
Like, don't get in my way of my deadlines.
Yeah, don't get in the way. And that was how my mindset was, because I just thought, surgery, it's fine. So, performing. So right after surgery, the headaches were instantly gone. And then this was me because, being the dedicated person I am, they didn't let me have nail polish on for my surgery because they had to monitor that. And I love nail art. So this photo was me. I had 2 IVs in both arms. This was probably 4 hours after surgery, and I was doing my nails and up.
You're a trooper, my friend.
Yeah, and I had actually gotten that surgery on the Friday of the March break and was very, very, I was persistent to get back to school, and I was back on Tuesday of the next week.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Nothing's holding you back, friend.
Nope.
Good. So can you talk a little bit about, school friendships or friendships in general that you developed over the years, or maybe some difficulties that you had at school, during school, with the school system, or people in general really kind of understanding that you are a brain tumor survivor and that you might have some challenges along the way?
Yeah. So school for me was, pretty, I would say I had it easier than others, but I was very much bullied, especially in elementary school. It was just one of those things kids are kind of, it's funny because they don't like things being different. And I guess, having a brain tumor and being blind as well, I was considered different. So they were, it was one of those things that they didn't know about, and it wasn't really touched on and educated on, which, put me to be bullied. And so in school, I had friends, but it was kind of hard because while others were, I guess, going, doing extracurricular activities and, doing these sports, I wasn't even able to participate in gym, because if I had gotten hit in the head, I could risk losing all of my sight, right, or, having to go for an emergency brain surgery. So I wasn't really able to connect through my school that way. I had some really good friends, and the teachers, good and bad teachers. They all did their best, and those things, but there wasn't enough education in that time where, we could teach about brain tumors. For me though, camp quality in Lake Joe is where I was able to be myself. So camp quality is a camp for kids with cancer. And I started going, I think when I was around 12 years old. At that point, like you could go from like, I think you start at 4 and you can go all the way to you're 18. But for me, I wasn't like, I was too scared to go away from home. And then when I was 12, I was finally able to like do that. So I was able to go and then be myself at camp without fear of judgment, and actually able to connect with other children who, like, you know, the word chemo or radiation or MRI was a normal thing.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to meet all those other ones going through that. And then I actually even met someone who had the same diagnosis as me, and we're still very close to this day, which is amazing.
So that's really great to hear that. Sorry to interrupt. That's really great to hear that even though it's a camp for cancer survivors, that they still allowed you and your friend to go with a non-malignant tumor. So that's really, really good to hear. Yeah. Yeah.
Camp for kids with cancer and then other diagnoses, I think along those lines. Yeah.
And so go ahead.
Yeah. And then Lake Joe is a camp where it's for people with sight loss. So, you know, there was youth week, like this family weeks, and everyone. So I was able to go and connect with people who, you know, had vision loss, because that is also a huge part of my life, you know, living with vision loss and trying to navigate the world as someone who's blind. And because of that, I was able to, in the photo is me and my very best friend, Emily, who to this day has been such a huge supporter in my life and someone I probably couldn't get through life without. But yeah, all of these connections, like I, as a child going through school, it was really tough, but at the end of the day, I was able to, like, you know, I'd mark down the days till Camp Quality or Lake Joe, and just be like, you know, one more day. And I get to, like, the summer was where I got to connect with others.
That's great. I have a couple questions, or one question for you.
Yeah.
So you had multiple surgeries. Did you ever have radiation done at all or anything else?
No. So chemo, I haven't had chemo in about 18 years. I haven't had chemo since the second biggest surgery. And then radiation, we have not touched yet, but there might be plans for future things.
Okay. The reason why I want to mention that to our audience is because there are, for certain people, even though Alicia had a non-malignant tumor, it's still possible, because it's non-malignant, that the person may go through chemo and or radiation, even though it's not cancerous. So that's another reason why, you know, we want people to know that a non-malignant tumor can be just as serious as a malignant tumor, right?
Yeah.
Regardless if they go through chemo or radiation. So I just wanted to let the audience know that.
Something I didn't put in this, I was actually, my doctors, like I was put on the list to maybe get a certain kind of, I think it's radiation. It's called gamma knife. Yeah. Is that radiation?
It's a type of radiation, correct?
Yeah. So I was actually, my doctors had put like a request in, and I was denied 7 times for that, because of just, I guess where the tumor was located at the time.
Okay.
But that was a plan. Like I was supposed to get gamma knife.
Because it was too dangerous to do at that point?
Too close to the eyes.
Okay.
And they didn't want to risk any more vision loss, because what I have now is very, like, it's really, really good, but they don't, well, it's not good. It's not the greatest, but, you know, they don't want to, it was just too close to the eyes and they didn't want to risk that.
So the risk outweighed the benefits at that point.
Yeah. But radiation has always been in the talk, and gamma knife too.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So day-to-day life for you, talk to us about that. What do good days look like? What do bad days look like? How do you manage your energy levels, all that kind of stuff?
So good days versus bad days, I guess, all depend on, you know, my health. Now I put my health before anything. You know, before I used to like kind of plan my health around my schooling, but now I plan my schooling around my health. If I have to miss a day of something, you know, my teachers in college are amazing, and like the supports that I have there are amazing. So I'm able to do that. And, you know, also scheduling my many alarms for my many medications. I have about like 6 alarms on my phone just day out, like day in and day throughout the day.
Wow.
And then I also, because of the tumor and because of everything, like I have, fatigue, like a lot of fatigue. And so I tend to take a nap. Like naps are like a thing that's just a part of my everyday normal. And then, managing chronic illnesses, some days are better than others. When I'm sick, those are the days where it's harder, but we manage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. And so what advice would you offer someone in elementary or high school just receiving a brain tumor diagnosis, Alicia?
So I thought about this. This is one, I think, just to find your support systems and connect. For me, connecting with others through, the brain tumor support groups, and just Camp Quality, and through those resources was probably the most vital part of my healing and my recovery, and my everyday, just being able to know that I'm not alone is the most important thing that got me through it, and just know it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so what would you say to your peers who are not brain tumor survivors?
So my peers, I think for peers, and because I've kind of surrounded myself with people who are very accepting of it. There's been people in my life who would like, they hear the word brain tumor and they run the other direction kind of thing, but that's just like a reality. I think don't be scared of the diagnosis, and just, accept it, and don't make it a big thing. Unless they bring it up, don't bring it up, and just treat them like, if you've known this person for years and years on end and then they get a diagnosis, don't treat them any differently unless they say something. Just they're the same person, just with a diagnosis now, and that diagnosis does not define who they are.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
yeah.
That's a great point, Alicia. Anything you want to say about some of these photos here on this slide?
Yeah. So these photos, I guess 2015 to present, I graduated from Sick Kids, which what a fun achievement. So the first one, I think that photo on the right, I don't know how, I feel like I was around 15 or 16 at that photo, or, I was some age, but I had just like, that was one of my first like one of my first MRIs being done at Sick Kids, and, kind of in adulthood. Yeah. And then the middle above photo was one of my last trips to see my neurosurgeon in Toronto with Mom. So we did the classic Sick Kids photo sign. It was winter, love the snow. And then the bottom photo there is me and my hero in life, Dr. Rutka at Sick Kids, who, saved my life practically 3 times over. Wow. Yeah. And he was, amazing. And he was my doctor for 18 years, like since I was 6 months old to 18 years old. So he was, very, very close.
So now you've transitioned to adult care since you were 18, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
So where do you go now for appointments and checkups and all that kind of stuff?
So after Sick Kids, I went for a year and a half, I think, I went to St. Mike's to see a neurosurgeon. Oh, okay. But then, the trips down to the Toronto was just becoming really hard. Like, it was just like, my mom is a single mom and raising 2 special.
So sorry to interrupt. I think we neglected to tell the audience where you are right now, which is Sudbury, right? Yeah. So I'm in Sudbury. So we would have to drive down practically every 3 months for many, many doctors. So, there wasn't a month where I probably wasn't at Sick Kids or at some hospital. So the goal was to transition as I transitioned to adulthood and more independent, the more we would have to get stuff in Sudbury. So I went to see my endocrinologist, and all my other doctors were able to firstly be transferred to Sudbury. So I was able to get all those. Once 18, I was able to stay in Sudbury for those. Mm-hmm. But the neurosurgeon, it took a little bit longer. So I was a year in Toronto, but now I have a really good neurosurgeon in Sudbury who actually studied under
the one in Toronto, which was, amazing. But yeah, we just wanted that transition to be easier because, getting to Toronto as someone with vision loss, it would be hard kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's a big trek to do, right? Yeah. And then plus the cost of gas and staying somewhere.
Hotels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, and look at you with your gown and cap and gown.
Yeah, so this is probably one of my favorite slides because throughout my whole life, I was always told, you won't be in a movie or you won't graduate high school. I was told that multiple times. And just, to quote Shakespeare, he always said, to be or not to be. I didn't like that. So I kind of said, I'm going to be or to be because I will be. And so here I am on the first photo was me in my first movie that I was in, and Billy Baldwin, Alec Baldwin's brother.
Yeah.
So I was 16 at the time. That was like a year post-op surgery. I was living my biggest dreams. And so I got to be in a movie with him. And then,
which movie, Alicia?
It was a very cheesy Hallmark movie called Lead with Your Heart.
Amazing. We got to look that up.
Yeah, it's so really
funny.
Good.
I didn't even, when you sent me the slides, I didn't even register that that's who that was in the photo. That's so funny.
16-year-old me, like that was like, it was like 6 days after my birthday. It was the best birthday ever. But yeah, Billy Baldwin, amazing, and like the sweetest person ever. So that was like first, did that, got, prove those people wrong for telling me I couldn't, make the theater a career.
Did you send them the link? Did you send them the link to the movie?
Yeah. And then to the right of, I graduated high school with a theater diploma, so an arts diploma, and I graduated with special theater with it.
Awesome.
So
that's exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting. So let's hear a little bit more about some of your learning experiences from over the years.
For sure. So my learning experiences, living with a brain tumor has always just been a part of my normal life. It's been tough, but I don't let that stop me from achieving any goals in life. When I was in high school, I told my character stories on stage. Now I have learned that the story I love to tell is my own, and so I can spread hope and awareness. And I've actually become a motivational and public speaker because of that, which has been, the greatest thing ever, I guess you could say, and just so being able to connect with so many others through that, and being able to bring so much hope has just been, such a huge passion. And then, Brain Tumor Foundation has helped me to share my story as well, like today, and, bring support to others and being able to get support through the support groups.
That's great. And, how I got a chance to meet you in person, and I'm so glad that we met, is for those of you who don't know, we just recently launched the very new Super Kids educational program, and Alicia is one of our committee members. So not only did she help us create these amazing lesson plans that we launched, one of them was actually focused on drama, your character sketch, right? Yeah. So tell us a little bit why you wanted to join the Super Kids committee and your experience with that.
Yeah, so Super Kids Committee, I feel like, because going to school for early childhood education, I don't see myself in a daycare thing. I would rather be, creating curriculum and really, making those differences and making those, big changes. So when I heard about Super Kids, I immediately said absolutely, because this was the thing that was missing for a child in a pediatric brain tumor survivor like myself, where, now with Super Kids lessons, we can bring in those lessons and bring in, I guess, kind of like information and also support and a somewhat normalcy to brain tumor patients, and, showing others that it's okay to have this diagnosis and we're not anything other and different. Exactly. So other kids will benefit so much from this. And I think, what else? And then, these lessons plans are going to help change so many other children and you know, even educators, and just bringing in all that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, so like Alicia's saying, the Super Kids program is a list of lesson plans that we've created as a committee. So there's about 10 or 12 of us on the committee, and each lesson plan focuses on a different topic or theme. So some of them are specific to brain tumors. A lot of it is about the brain in general and how the brain works, to remind kids that it is our control center. And when somebody has a disease or an illness like a brain tumor, it can affect the person cognitively or maybe with their memory. There might be some personality changes. And so just reminding kids and teachers that just because somebody might physically look well, that cognitively and mentally they might be having some challenges also, or just may need some accommodations, right?
Yeah.
And so the lesson plans also include themes around empathy and kindness and teamwork and all those great core values, right? And so we encourage everybody to check out Super Kids on our website. It is a free program for anybody to download the lesson plans. We're encouraging teachers as well as parents, because more and more parents are doing homeschooling during this pandemic right now. We have lesson plans from kindergarten right through to grade 12. And we really want people's feedback. So if you provide us if you download a lesson plan and you put it into action in your classroom, connect with me and we're going to send you some really fun Super Kids stuff for your classrooms. So if you're a parent online, please make sure that your kids' teachers know about Super Kids. And this is not just for this is not just for schools who have been affected by brain tumors, right, Alicia? We want to, anybody, any teacher can access these lesson plans to teach their classrooms. So we're really excited about this. And
I think that's really good,
Alicia. Yeah.
Yeah. I think because I don't know, but like for me growing up in the schooling, you never really heard of like the word brain tumor or even, you know, cancer. Besides, there was one day out of the whole year where we would do it, and it was for Terry Fox. And I feel like there should be so much more awareness around all of this.
Yeah.
Even if you know, kids should be introduced to this either way, like either if there is a child in this or not.
Exactly. I'm just pulling up actually. So tomorrow night, Alicia has agreed to be part of we're putting you to work, girl. Yeah, here we go. So I'm going to just put it in the chat section for anybody who is interested in joining us tomorrow night. We are going to have members of the Super Kids Committee joining us. And we're going to just talk about the making of Super Kids. Is going to be super, super fun. So here we are at I believe your last slide. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So I guess the little takeaway from me is, you know, my brain tumor, it may have taken my sight, but it'll never take away my vision to create change. So, you know, despite everything that I guess I have kind of lost in a way, I've also gained so much because of it. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Alicia, for joining us today. Really, you know, it takes a lot of courage to step up and to share your story. And it sounds like this is one of your passions, just one of your passions. You have so many. And I know that whatever you decide to do in life, you will excel at it. So we're really happy to have you on the Super Kids Committee. I want to also mention, so Alicia did a character sketch lesson plan, chain of empathy and kindness lesson plan. One lesson plan is called Shape Your Brain. You did that one too, right? Yep. And then superhero affirmation, which we're working on right now.
Yeah.
Did I miss any?
I don't think so.
Well,
I think there might be 4 or 5, but I'm blanking right now.
Same. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
So so thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Desjardins, for joining us as well. And Alicia, thank you for joining us. I mean, it's amazing when technology works, right? Yeah. We're all kind of spread out in Canada here. So thank you to the both of you for joining us today. And thank you to everybody online for your comments and questions. And I just want to say, Alicia, a couple comments that came through. Alicia, you're such a brave and beautiful person. What an inspiration. Thank you so much for sharing your story. May all your dreams come true. Love to mom and your best friend. You made my day. So very proud of you, Alicia. One tough chick. Love her smiles. You go, girl. So proud of you, Alicia. So lots of accolades there for you and well deserved. Oh, we may have one question or just another comment. Thank you so much, Alicia. So valuable for healthcare professionals too, to hear your perspective as a survivor. So yes, I agree. So thank you again, everybody. The recording will be available in the next week or so, and we will touch base with everybody who has registered. And make sure you check out our website for all the amazing programs that we have to offer for everybody in our community. So thanks again, everybody.